Where is this crazy voice coming from? God? Is that you? Nope. It's me, Mario. And of course, the phone would ring and interrupt my intro. This better be good, guys. This better be really good. On some shit, the coolest bike shop in the world. Oh, you don't say. Telemarketers. What's going on, guys? So today's Tech Thursday. Every Thursday, we bring you something that has to do with your bike. Maintenance, tutorials, different little cool things that I think that you might want to learn. Or if you already know how to do it, well, there might be a different technique that you don't know about. So today what we're going to talk about is freshening up your whip. I know a few weeks ago we did a little video where I basically showed you how to dial in your whip. So that means like tightening up your bottom bracket, tightening up your chain, tightening up your headset, that kind of stuff. Today, we're talking more about the essentials that really wear out first. We're talking tires, grips, pedals, pegs, maybe even a seat. Depends. I'm very fortunate to call Shadow Conspiracy one of my sponsors. Plug. I got a cool package in the mail, so let me show you guys. So this is just my refresh kit. I'm actually going to be building a new bike pretty soon. I know you guys love bike builds. Check out the Brandon Began one I did recently. It has like somewhere around 50,000 views in like a week or two. I know you guys dig that one. So as you can see, I got new tires, I got new pegs, and I got new pedals. Shout out to my other plug, S&M. Right now, my frame is still pretty crispy, so we don't need to change anything on that. But grips are a main component in making your bike feel really nice. So let's get to it. So first and foremost, I'm going to be changing my pedals. To do so, we have the Shadow Conspiracy multi-tool. This little bad boy has everything you need all in one, down to a bottle opener. And I know a lot of you alkies out there might need this. If you're not of age, do not drink. All right, so first and foremost, like I said, pedals. I'm going to assume all of you guys are noobs, aka are kind of, getting into the hang of this BMX stuff. So I'm going to show you guys how to take these off. Very straightforward. You have a left pedal, and you got a right pedal. When you're tightening or loosening the pedals, you have to keep in mind that traditionally we have lefty, so you spin to the left, is loosey. And then you got righty. When you spin to the right, you're going to tighten it. When you have the left pedal on your cranks, that's actually reverse threaded. The reason for that is that you don't want to pedal forward and have it come undone. So this pedal is reverse thread. So to take off your pedal, you're going to need a tool. I personally trust in the Shadow Conspiracy multi-tool. It has a 15mm pedal wrench conveniently placed at the very top of the tool. So all you have to do is place the tool onto your pedal. Your pedal has a pedal boss, and there's a slit in it. That slit, boom, your pedal wrench slides perfectly on there. Okay, now you just basically hold on to the right pedal, but because it's counter-threaded, you're going to go righty is loosey. Yes, counterintuitive. A lot of people get confused with this, and then they end up over-tightening, and don't forget to put a little bit of grease so it doesn't become seized. But if your pedals are super tight and seized, you're going to need some sort of huge pipe or an extension of some sort that's going to go over this tool to provide you leverage to remove this pedal. This isn't the case for me. I put a little bit of grease, and it hasn't been that long since I changed my pedals, so there you go. Basically, all you have to do is push down. So you're going to go clockwise or down, which would technically be to the right. So again, righty is now loosey, but only in this case. You're going to spin it all the way down. Well, now that it's loose, you can basically finger loosen it, take it off, and then we can assess what I consider, and then we can assess why I consider these worn. So if you look closely, you'll see that I do crank arm grinds on both the left side and the right side. I'm not very good with the right, so it's mostly pedal, so that's where my pins really get torn up. I'm a lot better at crank arm grinds with my left side, and I try and not get too much pedal, and as you can see, there's not that much pin damage. Okay, so on first inspection, we see that the pedal's a little worn. Next up, last week I was feeling a little zesty, so I did a few bigger gaps than normal, a few gaps of wall ride and stuff like that. So when you start landing really, really heavy, something has got to give or else your body's going to break. More often than not, it's going to be your pedal. So what happens is that your spindle is the thing that's supporting your whole weight, essentially. And you can't see on the inside, but if you do, it actually even tapers off and becomes really small towards the end. And sometimes when you land really hard, it'll bend downwards, or in Stevie's case, I don't even know what it'll do. It'll turn into a zigzag pattern, but that's a whole different case. So I kind of feel sometimes that when I'm pedaling, I feel something is not right. It feels like I'm not pedaling smoothly or in a perfect circle. It's more like a weird oval. So if you're feeling that, usually your pedals are bent. And you can usually figure this out if you have a friend that has like brand new pedals and brand new cranks. And if you ride his bike or her bike and it feels completely different to yours, that usually means that yours is bent and you got accustomed to that. So time to get some new ones. So I'm going to put this one to the side and I'm going to install my new one. Very important, guys, when you're going to put on new pedals, make sure you read the pedal boss and make sure that the left goes with the left and the right goes with the right. Obviously, owning a bike shop and working at one in the past, and I've been working on my bike forever, so I've seen all my friends make every mistake when installing pedals. So again, before you put these on, you're gonna wanna add a little bit of grease to the threads. Essentially what that does is that it'll make it so that it goes in smoother, so you don't have to really force it in. So if you have these pedals for a long period of time, there's gonna be rust or slight strippage or bending or cracking or something that could happen to the threads that'll actually seize it onto the cranks, and it's gonna be hard to get off. So a little bit of grease, it takes a second to add, it'll make all the difference. While you're doing this, be very careful. So I'm gonna place my tool over here. You're gonna wanna do it with your fingers before you use the tool. So what you do is you make sure that the pedal is nice and straight, and then you spin it. Again, this is gonna be reversed, but you're gonna spin it to the left or counterclockwise. When pedals are really, really new, sometimes they're a little stiff, so you can actually even turn the whole pedal. But once they loosen up a little bit, the pedal and the spindle should spin independently because there's bearings in there. So now that I've reached the end, I can grab my tool, place it on the slots, and basically I'm going upward, which is counterclockwise, which is normally loosened, but today it's gonna be tightened, okay? So now that one's nice and tight. Let me flip the stand around for you guys. Magic, right? All right, to remove your right pedal, that's the traditional side. You gotta keep in mind, right, normal. So I'm gonna loosen this up, and then for some reason Ryan Taylor is here. I don't know what he's doing here, but I'm just gonna remove this pedal. Ugh. BRB, guys. I'm over here mic'd up, doing a video, and you interrupt my video. You're in the video.
Oh, you're filming?
Yeah. I got a wireless mic. What's up, man? Alfredo, nice to meet you, man. All right, so when you come over to the right side, it's traditional. So righty-tighty, lefty-loosey. So since we're gonna be loosening it, you're gonna go left, so down, push, push, push. Use that gorilla strength of yours, and bam, she's off. I like to do this technique just because I'm a pro at this. Oh, there she went. All right, so next up, we're gonna put the new pedal. Again, you're gonna put a little bit of grease on it. There's enough on the outer brim of this little tub of grease that we got, just enough so it goes in there nice and smooth. You're gonna spin it just with your hand until you catch the threads. When you feel the first one catch, it'll slow down the spin, but it should be nice and smooth. Once it's smooth, you know you've done it right, then you can just tighten her down. Be careful, you never wanna cross-thread it, and what cross-threading means is that you've put it slightly crooked, and then you don't feel it going in smooth, so then you just get your tool and start powering through. That's gonna strip your cranks, and you don't wanna do that because that's gonna ruin your pair of cranks. And cranks are not cheap. They start off at about like 70 bucks and go all the way up to like 250 bucks depending on what you get. So be careful. All right, so now you get to the very end. Hold your left crank arm with your hands, and then with your right hand, you're gonna lift up, push up, and then bam, make sure they're nice and tight. You don't need to overdo it, just enough to where it's nice and snug. It's gonna be pretty hard for them to come off, but you don't need to really I've seen people step on it and stuff like that. That's overkill. Okay, next up, I'm gonna change out my peg. So sometimes when grinding, especially plastic pegs, if you don't rotate them enough, and what that means is that you grind for a little while, it starts forming a little flat spot. You get your shadow tool, you insert it inside your shadow slider die peg, loosen it up. You wanna make sure that every time you go on a crazy ledge mission or rail mission and you start getting flat spots, you rotate it. When you don't do so, they'll form flat spots. So you don't want that in your life. So as you can see, there's an area right here where I grind it more than the other. And what that does is that over time, the metal sleeve will start becoming exposed. So when you're grinding on a plastic peg, you're actually kind of sliding. But if your metal peg is exposed, the inner sleeve that is, then that'll catch and grind and that'll slow you down. So just throw on a new sleeve, or if you're lucky and sponsored, throw on a whole new peg and then donate this peg to a homie. Do the same thing. And remember, this, unlike the crank arm, is traditional lefty-loosey, righty-tighty. So just gonna loosen up the left one. Since I have brakes, what I have to do is squeeze them together, remove one side of the straddle cable. That'll open up your brakes. That'll give you enough clearance for your tire. And then all you have to do is place your cranks in a flat position. Be very careful when doing this, but you want to make sure that both of your pegs are nice and loose, or loose enough to where it's not tight on the actual dropouts. So this is pretty loose. I push the wheels forward. You can either tap it, or tapping works. And then once your chain is nice and loose, you basically push it over, and then you back pedal. Again, keep your hands away from the sprocket. You could lose a finger. And that's why they call me 4-finger frayeds. Okay, they really don't do that because I still have all 5. But if I put my finger in there, we'd be telling a different story now, wouldn't we? You don't want that. So push the chain on over, pedal back, the chain will come off the sprocket, and that'll give you enough clearance to pull your back wheel off. Boom, comes off. I ride a hub guard, so I basically have to slide my chain up and around the hub guard. So you can see it's not cooperating. There she goes. Okay, it's been removed. So why am I getting rid of this Shadow Featherweight Contender tire? Well, I accidentally grinded a ledge that had like a protruding screw, and it tore my sidewall a little bit. So every time I go street riding with like Adam or Began or somebody, they're like, oh my God, your tire's about to explode. Yeah, the tire might have torn a little bit, but the Kevlar inside is still keeping my tube protected. But it is time for a new one. So we're just going to deflate this one. And if you have the handy dandy shadow tool, it actually comes with a tire lever. It actually comes with 2 tire levers, but I seem to have donated them. Oh, it's right here. On one side, it has a spoke wrench, so I can tighten this up if need be. But on the back side, it has a tire lever portion. I like to use the front side, the spoke tool part, to basically deflate my inner tube. I don't want to have to shove my finger in there. Strange statement. Oh, the smell of stale inner tube air. Nothing says cafeteria fish Fridays like the smell of stale inner tube air. Do it in outdoors. This is indoors. Stinks up the whole joint. I don't know why I did it right then and there, but I did. So again, the shadow tool includes these tire levers, and they're really cool because they have tools on both sides, but you want the back side. So basically, you place it underneath the bead of your tire, and then you kind of hoist it over the sidewall of your rim. You don't need to basically put a lot of force into it. It should be pretty easy. If you're finding that it's kind of difficult, you haven't removed enough air. So Alfredo, quit rushing, remove all the air, or it won't be easy for you, or me, or Tony, or whoever's around. Now that the air is all out, and basically you're gonna start sliding the tire lever on the side of your rim. If you don't wanna scratch your rim, be very careful. You wanna do it nice and slow, and you wanna actually have it mostly on the tire and not rubbing on the rim. So you're gonna have to actually pull the tire a little bit while you're doing it. And bam, my rim is now naked. I can remove my tube because that's still good. Then you throw this away because I don't want a kid to ride that tire and then have it explode on him and then be bummed on me. I want 2, 3, 5. Here we go. So I'm going to be putting on this shadow contender. Basically, a lot of you guys always ask what I ride. I have a square setup, so what that means is that the front tire and the back tire are both the same size. In car terms, that means that your wheels aren't staggered, but we'll use it in this. It's applicable. So basically, I ride the Shadow Conspiracy contender tires. These are the welterweight. I was formerly running the featherweights, but I've been riding in a lot more sketchy streets than usual. So I'm going to go for a little bit thicker tire just to protect my tube a little more. I have gotten one flat since I've had those. So I'm going to try these out for size. But when I go back to riding more park, I'm definitely going to switch back to those because they're super light. And your boy can use some of that. When placing your tire, you got to remember that they're directional. Usually, if they're triangles, you want the top part or the roof part of the triangle to be facing forward. So this contender tire has a little triangle basically. We're going to aim that forward. So if I have a right-hand drive wheel, the driver has to be on the right. Place your tube, and when you do that, your tube is already in the tire. I like to just basically pinch where the valve is and then drop that into its proper valve hole in the rim. And then you're ready to basically start sliding the bead over on the tire. If you need, you can use the tire lever to help you basically lift the bead up and over the rim. If you've done it right, you can kind of just do it with your hands. I'm trying to do it the proper way because I always have some trolls that'll tell me that, why do I work at a bike shop? I don't know how to work on bikes, blah, 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 blah. Hey, I've been doing this for a long time. Everybody just has their own way. If that's your way, that's fine and dandy, like sour candy. But you know what? Don't be trolling me, mister. Quite a bit. And there you go. She's properly beaded. Place your wheel near the dropouts, but not on them yet. You want to put your chain on first. Ow! Be careful with metal splinters. That hurts. Okay, now that the chain is on the driver, you want to make sure that when you're doing this, that you didn't loosen up or tighten up your wheel too much because some hub guards act as your cone nuts. This one does, but it didn't loosen, which is good. Sometimes if you have dual hub guards, it'll be kind of hard to get your back wheel into the dropouts of the frame because your hub guards cause your back hub to be a little wider. So sometimes you have to basically pry your back end apart either using tools or if you're buff like your boy, you just pull it apart and then squeeze it in with your chest. Once you've done that, place your chain back on. Again, be very careful not to get your fingers near the sprocket. And then basically crank her forward. If you have brakes, you can now put your straddle cable. If you have brakes, you can now place your straddle cable back over the brakes, onto the straddle, and back over to the other side of the 990. Place it on its guide, and boom, you're back in action. Now, I'm just going to tighten up my chain to my liking, but I'm not going to finish mocking up the bike because I still have to do the front tube. And then I'm gonna take it off the stand and pump her up. So, and before I end up all that, I still wanna change my grips. So let me finish this up. Okay, that looks fine. Now I'm gonna take off my front wheel. Nothing different there. I'm just gonna loosen up the left side, which is now backwards because my handlebars are backwards, which is now backwards because my handlebars are backwards. Loosen both sides. I ride the Shadow Conspiracy front wheel as well. Basically my whole bike is Shadow. It's gonna smell great. Oh yeah. The reason that I like both tires to have the same width is that I feel like it looks better, and when you do more high impact jumps, it feels a little more spongy. So, personal preference. And again, I'm just mocking this up before I do the final tightening. All right, so last but not least, I'm gonna change up my grips, but to be honest, my grips are actually perfectly worn in, so I'm not gonna really change the grips. I'm actually changing the bar ends. The reason for that is that once you drop your bike a lot, the bar ends really start getting abused and they'll break the edge off. And if the edge isn't there, that's the thing that's protecting you. So replace these all the time. If not, you'll get stabbed. And if your bars don't stab you, I will. Come on the other side. This one's really messed up. So here's another trick. If your bar ends are that trashed like mine is, yeah, so basically if your bar ends are really trashed, you can just use like a screwdriver and just bang them all the way in. Obviously, if you do that 10 times, then you'll have a problem because you have a lot of bar and then you won't be able to shove another one in there. So don't do it 10 times, or even more than 2, maybe. All right, so for the grand finale, I'm just gonna pump up my tires. I know this might seem boring, but you guys always ask. I usually run anywhere from 60 to 80 PSI, depending on what I'm gonna be riding. If I'm gonna be riding more transitions, I usually keep the air pressure tighter. That way when I'm going and cruising around transitions, the tire doesn't like fold or give out on me. If I'm gonna be riding street, I'll keep it somewhere like around 70. And if I know for a fact I'm gonna jump off something bigger, I usually go slightly less than 70, maybe like 68 pounds. And the reason for that is I like to absorb the impact a little bit through the tires. Normally when you get brand new tires, you wanna pump them up to about like 70, maybe ride around a little bit. All right, so if you have brand new tires, it's good to keep in mind that once they start wearing, they're gonna look a little more rounder. Initially, when you pump them up, they're gonna look a little triangular, like the top line is gonna look a little odd, but over time they'll start getting worn, and then they'll get nice and round for you and seem wider. Right now, the 235, that same exact tire I was running before, it just seems a little more narrow. And honestly, while doing all this talking, I pumped them up to about 90 PSI. Then I'm gonna go cruise around outside. It's gonna be hard as a rock, no homo. So I'm probably gonna take some air pressure out. It's always better to overpump them a little bit. Obviously not to the point where they explode, but you know, if they can take up to 110 PSI, which is what these are rated for, then you can pump them up till about 90, 95, and then if it's too much air, you can remove some. If you wanna add some more, you can. Try to get the front one back up to about 90 as well, 95, just so it feels even. That one feels even as well. And last but certainly not least, always cross-check everything. I haven't finished tightening up my wheel, so I'm gonna do that now. How I do it is basically with my hand, I loosen up the chain side, then I basically with my left hand, I push the wheel over. Now the back wheel is nice and tight. Basically what I did was I placed my hand on the wheel and shifted the wheel over while I tightened the loose side. Once that's tight, I came over to the other side and did the same thing. So my right hand here, push the wheel over, then tighten up the back peg. That's how I like to get it tight. Last but not least, the front wheel. You can basically just sit over your front end, place your shadow tool, and then crank her down. All right, so look at my bike in all her glory. We got new tires, new peg. I didn't have to do all 4. New pedals, new bar ends. I didn't really want to do the grips. They feel really nice. And the tires are going to feel amazing when I go out there and pedal these streets. And then when you bounce it, pretty dialed sounding, which is very important. So basically what this was an excuse for me to show you how to install 2 tires, pedals, bar ends, not really the grips, a peg, adjust your wheels and everything, all because I was going to do it anyways, but I might as well show you guys, right? And that's what Tech Thursday is all about. So guys, if you enjoyed this, please leave me a like. Most importantly, subscribe. If you feel like it, drop me a comment, say what's up. Or actually say that you liked yesterday's video, which is actually today, because I've dropped 3 videos in the last maybe 18 hours, so I'm getting a little delirious. So I'm gonna wrap it here. I'm gonna go home. I gotta feed Tony. I don't know where he is, but you know what to do. Like, share, comment, and subscribe. Even though I already mentioned it, just make sure to do it. All right, guys, much love. Bye.
It's not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot of it. Not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot of it.